The third area that we are investing in is cyber. Cyber is an area both of a challenge and of an opportunity. The challenge is obvious. You can paralyze countries today without firing a shot. Everything becomes computerized, all public systems, transport, banking, water, everything, communications, and it's going to get more so. And as it gets more so, it's more open and susceptible to systemic attack. And therefore, every country, Israel included, has the vested interest to defend itself against cyber warfare. We have, because this is so prevalent, we now have a business opportunity. The business opportunity comes from the fact that several of the leading companies in the world that address the challenge that I've just described are in Israel. Some of the greatest banks in the world, American banks, are protected, daily guarded by companies in Herzliya. And this is a big, big field. So we're going to marry our defense needs with our business sector and, of course, the academic world, because you have to produce the scientists and the mathematicians and the physicists and the computer experts to address this issue. I've built in the last month, after preparation of 6 months, a national cyber board that has 12 task forces to marry defense, private sector, and academia. And I think Israel will be one of the greatest cyber powers in the world. There are 5 leading powers. We don't intend to be the 5th. I don't know if we'll be the first, but we'll be right up there. These are the 3 areas. These are the 3 areas that I believe we can pursue, but understand that however we work on technology, however we work on it, we are still coasting on the past. We have the greatest number of Nobel Prize winners, and it is said correctly, that comes from the educational system that I went through as a child. It doesn't necessarily represent the educational system that we have today. Now, we said that, and it was said by many here in the previous conference 2 years ago. Here's what we've done in the last 2 years. What we've done is to put about 7 billion shekels in a multi-year program to revolutionize our higher education. That money is not merely going into a black hole. It's going into higher education, into the universities, with significant reforms that encourage competition between these institutions. And it will make a difference. So the first thing is we are going to ratchet up our higher education because it's critical for us for everything that I just described. But you know, you have to get to the higher education from kindergarten and grade school and high school. So we've enacted in the last 2 years a great reform that has eluded us. Some of it was there before, but it eluded us. We could not get our high schools to accept this reform. And the essence of this reform, to me, the most important element of it that we've been talking about for 10 years, as we've seen the grades of Israeli students decline, we've been talking about a change, and the essence of the change is to tie the teachers' compensation and advancement to the performance of their students. This is a critical reform. I can't tell you how critical it is. It was controversial. Some people still challenge it, but I looked at the winners. We looked at the countries that have superior educational systems, and they all have this one common feature. People are rewarded for excellence. There is no greater mission than teaching our children the basic skills for the world of tomorrow. And what we are seeing, just by setting objectives, and even before this reform is fully enacted, we can see the numbers beginning to change. We can see the direction, the trend line changing. So I can see Israel with a robust economy and with powerful technology that is sustained by a powerful educational system. I said that all of this will give us a grip on the future. But there's another element that we want to have, and this element is peace. I believe peace is possible. I know some people think I don't believe that. They're absolutely wrong. Peace is possible. It's within our reach. But in order for there to be peace, we have to address the core issue that has eluded peace. Now, there are many issues that we have to deal with: territories, settlements, security, refugees. These are all critical. There's no question about that. And they'll have to be resolved, dealt with and resolved. And there are other issues. They're important issues, but they're not the core issue of the conflict. Because we have to ask ourselves, why has peace eluded us? Because we've not had peace with our Palestinian neighbors for the last 90 years. I begin the marking of this conflict from that day in 1920 when there's a violent attack on the Jewish immigration office in Jaffa. And this conflict continued. It continued in the 1920s, in the 1930s, in the 1940s, the refusal to accept the partition to a Jewish state and an Arab state. In the 50s with the Fedayeen, leading right up to 67, when there was an attempt to choke Israel by three of its neighbors. And the question you have to ask, from 1920 to 1967, what was this conflict about? It raged for nearly half a century, for 47 years. What was that about? It wasn't about settlements. It wasn't about Israeli soldiers in Judea and Samaria or Gaza. We weren't there. We didn't have a single soldier. It wasn't about Jerusalem. Jerusalem was divided. It wasn't about the inability to build a Palestinian state. They had all the ability to build one state or two states. It wasn't about refugees, at least until 1948, because there wasn't a single Arab refugee. That was a result of the Arab attack, not its cause. So what has this conflict been about? It's been about one thing. From 1920 till the present, it's been about one thing: the persistent refusal to accept the nation state of the Jewish people in any boundary. That's the truth. Now, I think this can be removed. I don't think it's easy. Well, I think it's conceptually easy, but hard to do. I can tell you, it's not easy. Because to argue against a common ethos is hard. I know. 2 years ago, I stood before my own people. And I said something that wasn't easy for me to say. I'm deeply attached to the land of Israel. I'm deeply attached to our ancestral homeland, but I said, there's another people here, we'll have to have a division. I said, facing the Israeli people, I said, I will accept a Palestinian state. Now I say that President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority must do what I did 2 years ago. He must face his people, the Palestinian people, and say, I will accept the Jewish state. I think this is critical. I think this is critical for the achievement of peace. And I want to tell you why. Because it's not what you call Israel. It's what Israel is. They say, well, you can call it Israel, you can call it David's empire, you can call it anything. That's not what I'm talking about. As far as I'm concerned, they can call their state Palestine, or they can call it Arafat land, they can call it whatever they want. But I wasn't talking about what they call it. I'm talking about what it is. It is, for them, the nation state of the Palestinian people. Israel is, for us, the nation state of the Jewish people. This means that it's the one and only state of the Jewish people. But this means that Palestinians, if they choose, go there, and Jews, if they choose, I hope many of you choose that, go here. That's what it means, can come here. That's one thing it means. The second thing it means is that the non-Jews of Israel, the non-Jewish citizens of Israel, have full and equal civic rights. And they do. In fact, as I said in my speech before the American Congress recently, they're the only Arabs in this vast domain between North Africa and the Middle East, 300 million Arabs, who have such civic equality before the law. The only ones. And they'll continue to have that. This is not a subject to question. But there will not be a demand, any demand, for further subdivision of Israel once we have peace. There won't be another Arab state or a sub-state or an appendage to the Palestinian state in the Galilee or in the Negev. The rights of Israel's non-Jewish citizens are satisfied under the law, but there will be no more national claim because this is the Jewish state, the nation state of the Jewish people. And of course, it also means that it won't be a binational state. It will have a solid Jewish majority, something that we have to ensure by doing all the things that I talked about, and other things, legal things, democratic things, prosperity, education, all these things will ensure a Jewish majority. It will have a Jewish majority and will continue to have a fully enfranchised Arab minority, but it is the Jewish state with our flag, the blue and white flag, our national anthem, Atikva, our holidays, our history, all the elements of our national identity. That's why there must be a recognition, mutual recognition, between the Jewish state and the Palestinian state. We're prepared to give that recognition. I've already declared it. And I hope that the Palestinian leaders muster the courage to address this fundamental obstacle to peace, to have the guts to face their own people and say, it's over. We're building a state not to continue the conflict and dissolve Israel. We're building a state to end the conflict once and for all and to give a real future for our children and our grandchildren. Because the vision that I described about Israel can be shared with our neighbors. We can be a tremendous engine for their development alongside with the efforts that they make on their own. And they've shown a capacity to make those efforts. And this could change the future. But it begins with 6 simple words. I will accept the Jewish state. This is what will change history. And I say to you, I say to Abu Mazen, our neighbor, my neighbor, I say to him, it's easier than a Nike commercial. There they say, just do it. I say, just say it. Accept the Jewish state and let's make peace once and for all. Toda rabba. Thank you.